In this lesson, you're about to see a native Arabic speaker sit the IELTS speaking interview. In this interview, he would likely score about a 7.5. After the interview, I will explain why his score would be about a 7.5. I will discuss the good points and the bad points, what he did well and what he could improve. First, let's watch the interview. Yes, come on in.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
My name is Adrian. May I have your name, please?
My name is Mohammed.
Okay, hi, Mohammed. So this is the speaking section of the IELTS exam. The interview will take about 12 to 15 minutes, okay? I will ask you some questions. There will be 3 parts. I'll give you instructions for each part. And I'm going to record this for marking purposes. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Mohammed, may I see your passport, please? Sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Here's your passport back.
Thank you.
And now we will begin with part 1. I'm going to ask you some questions on a general topic. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Mohammed, let's talk about your family. Do you have sisters and brothers? If so, how many?
Yes, I come from a big family. I have 6 brothers and 4 sisters, and I am the second youngest in the family.
All right. What was it like growing up in your family?
I had a lot of fun growing up. Having many siblings means always having someone around to play with. And so as a child, I was almost never bored.
Okay. Are your parents and grandparents from the same country as you? If not, where are they from?
Just like me, my grandparents were also born in Saudi Arabia. My mother was also born there. However, my father was born in the United States during a time in which his father was studying in a university there.
Why do you think family is important?
My family, my family is my foundation. Life has lots of ups and downs, but family is the one part that remains constant no matter what.
Okay. Is family life important in your country?
I think family life is important in every country. So yes, it is important in Saudi Arabia. We are taught to respect and honor the people older than us and to teach and encourage those younger than us.
Okay. That's the end of part 1. Now we will move to part 2. For part 2, I'm going to give you a card. The card will have some questions on it about a specific topic, okay? You're going to have 1 minute to prepare your answer. There's no paper in front of you, and here's a pen. You can take some notes if you'd like in the 1 minute. After your 1 minute preparation is over, I will give you 90 seconds to speak. I'll tell you when to start and when to stop, okay? So here is the card. Please keep it face down.
Okay.
Are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so your 1 minute begins now. Go ahead, turn over the card and prepare. Okay, Mohammed, so your 1 minute preparation time is up. Please begin speaking.
One government worker that I truly respect is Nelson Mandela. He was the president of South Africa for a number of years, but his influence on South African and the world politics is so much greater than that. One great accomplishment of Mandela was bringing together two races in a country which had until then been totally separate. Achieving this unity took a lot of intelligence, determination, and years of hard work. Nelson Mandela was jailed for many years for protesting against the government. So he was jailed for protesting against his government, but eventually he won his release, and then after that, the presidency of South Africa. He made South Africa a better country. So I think there is a lot to be learned from a man like Mandela. First, the importance of determination. And second, the value of standing up for what one believes in. And third, I believe Mandela taught the world that anything is possible. From standing up for what he believed in, to being jailed, to being freed, and then leading a country to prosperity. So a man like Mandela is truly, or a man like Mandela truly deserves everyone's respect.
Okay, very good. And the time is up, so we will now go to part 3, and I'm going to ask you some questions related to this topic. Are you ready to begin part 3?
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about government workers and respect. Do you believe government workers are as respected today as they were in the past? If not, what has changed to make them less respected?
That's an interesting question. Are you asking if today's society respects politicians as previous generations did?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think politicians are under increased pressure now due to the internet and social media. We know more about their lives. We know more about the bad things they might have done. So I think this could lead to decreased respect levels.
Okay. Why do you think it is important for government workers to have the respect of society?
I think it's important because it ensures that the government and society run smoothly. If government workers, such as politicians, are not respected, then the laws and the government might not be respected.
Okay. Government workers can earn the respect of people in many different ways. What are 2 ways in which a government worker can earn respect?
Yes, I think there are different ways to earn respect. One is by being honest with the public. Second is by keeping election promises. If a government worker is dishonest or breaks election promises, then it's hard to gain the public respect.
All right. I'm going to ask you a few more questions for part 3. Let's talk about being a government worker. Would you consider becoming a government worker? What factors contribute to your feeling?
That is an interesting question. Can I please have a moment to think about it?
Sure.
Okay. I think being a government worker is very difficult. However, it can also be very rewarding. So if I have the right education and I have spent some time in the workforce, then yes, I would consider becoming a government worker.
All right. What do you think is the hardest part of being a government worker? Why do you think people choose to work for the government despite all the difficulty the job entails?
I think people choose to work in the government out of a sense of duty to their city or country, no matter how difficult it is. And the hardest part, or the most difficult part about working in the government, I think would be being constantly in the public eye.
All right. That's the end of part 3, and that concludes the speaking section of the IELTS exam. You will get your mark with the other sections, with the official paper, in about 2 to 3 weeks. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't.
Okay, then thank you very much, Mohammed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you.
All right, before we discuss the specifics of the interview and what was done well and what could be improved, let's quickly review the 3 important elements that the IELTS examiners are looking for in order to give high scores. All right, again, remember from previous lessons that the first and most important aspect of the speaking interview is coherence. So again, coherence means that the questions that are asked in either the part 1 general topic, part 2 specific cue card topic, or part 3 even more specific topics, you need to answer those topics and controlling ideas specifically. Even if you have good speech, even if you make good sentences, if your sentences are off topic, means that you're not actually answering the questions, then you will not get good scores. Again, remember that the speaking interview is recorded and marked by independent examiners who are not there in the room. You have to be especially careful here because as humans in our day-to-day communication, we often are not coherent. So if we observe our conversations in the day and some of our question and answers that we undergo throughout our conversations with our friends or family, often we're off topic, and that's why sometimes we get into arguments and so on, is because we miscommunicate. However, in the IELTS, you can't do this. You cannot miscommunicate. You have to be on topic. You have to answer the right question. Don't just keep speaking and go off topic. Answer the question specifically, completely, and stop. Wait for the next question. The second element that they're looking for is natural speech. Natural speech is composed of good pronunciation, use of slang, use of phrasal verbs, use of idioms, use of natural fillers like therefore, and these kinds of sounds which allow you to buy time. These natural fillers are absolutely okay, and in fact, I recommend using them to give yourself some time to think. They do increase your score for this element. So make sure that you're combining these types of parts of language to increase that score. And then the third element is the complexity of your language. So by complexity, the main ones to pay attention to are use of complex and compound sentences. Complex and compound sentences means that you're using words like and, for, nor, or, neither, nor, either, or, not only, but also, therefore, however, if, then, and these types of conjunctions, so these types of words that join sentence elements. If you're not clear about those, definitely review those, practice those. Do not attempt the speaking section without at least some concept of these conjunctions. That's really important for the complexity of your language. And of course, again, remember that complexity, natural language, and coherent language are all kind of interconnected. They depend on each other. So the more you improve in each of these areas, the more your overall score will also improve. All right, now that we've reviewed that, let's have a more detailed look at the speaking interview and talk about what was done well, what can be improved, and why that's a 7.5. All right, first let's talk about what this test taker did well. Most importantly, if we look at the individual parts of the speaking interview, for example, in part 1, when he is answering questions about family, notice how he answers the questions completely. So he answers the question and often gives a reason for his answer, so answering the why question. Don't forget that the question sheet the interviewer has, many of the questions are followed by why. So in order to get a good score, don't wait for the examiner to ask you why, but just continue your answer with because or since, and then give a nice complete answer, giving the answer to a what and a why question all in one. And you notice that he does this very well throughout the interview. Also, he stays on topic. He doesn't just keep talking about anything, and he doesn't start going off topic because he loses the original question, but he stays on topic, stays with the controlling idea. Once he's answered the question completely, he stops and waits for the next question. So that's done really well. Also, when you go back and look at the interview again, notice how he uses conjunctions throughout the speaking interview. In part 1, part 2, part 3, look specifically at part 2, where he's talking about Nelson Mandela, and notice how he takes his time, thinks about the answer, uses his notes, and makes sure to connect ideas with conjunctions like however, therefore, and so. This is very important, and it's an important part of why he's getting a 7.5 here. Also pay attention to his use of body language. He keeps an open posture at the table. He uses his hands. Now, of course, the people marking the responses, they will not see the hand gestures or the arm movements because it's not a video recording, it's just an audio recording. But when humans use their hands in speech, it really helps them to emphasize language. So there's more intonation, more elevation and drop of sound in the words and sentences. So use of body language is highly, highly encouraged. Don't sit with your arms crossed. Don't sit with your legs crossed. Keep an open body posture. Keep your arms above the table and use your hands to help emphasize your words. It's a very good idea. In addition, you notice that he uses a fair bit of self-correction throughout all 3 parts of the speaking interview. When he catches himself making a mistake or giving an incorrect response or answer, he stops, thinks about it. He does what's called a mental search. This is often when we kind of look into our own mind, as if we're looking up inside of our brains. And then he corrects himself. He gives a more proper noun or the right idea or a better grammar structure. This is self-correction. It's highly encouraged. If you feel that you made a mistake, don't just forget about it and keep talking. Stop yourself and go back and say it again with a correct sentence, and for sure you'll get a better score. So pay attention to those. Combining all of these and practicing it will surely help you to get those higher scores for the speaking section. Okay, so again, remember that this speaker scores about a 7.5, and usually IELTS test takers don't need higher scores, so this is what you need to aim for. But just in case you're trying to get those higher scores, you want to get a 8.5 or even a perfect 9, the points that this examinee needs to improve are some of his grammar mistakes. If you go back and pay attention closely to his answer, you will notice that there are a few, not many, but a few awkward grammar mistakes. Some word forms are used incorrectly, but no major mistakes, so nothing that confuses the listener or the coherence. So go back, you can look for those, see how many you can catch. Also his pronunciation. Most of the words he pronounces very well. Also, he enunciates his words, which means that he vocalizes them so they're clear. But certainly some of the words are a little bit confusing based on the pronunciation. Again, go back, listen, watch the interview again, see how many of these words you can identify that he mispronounces. Of course, anybody can increase vocabulary. It doesn't mean if you're a native speaker, you have perfect vocabulary, or if you're an ESL speaker, you have perfect vocabulary. This is something anybody can continuously improve. Fluency can always be improved, meaning faster speech, more accurate speech, more intonated speech. So that can be improved. But again, this is not the key to high scores. So having lots of vocabulary is not the trick to getting a high score. The trick to getting a high score is being able to use the vocabulary you have accurately, well, fluently, correctly. So that's more important. Just an important last note here. Don't worry, don't stress about these things. If you're doing the exam, then just do your best. It's very important to be confident during the speaking interview. Don't worry about the mood of the examiner. They should be neutral, but there's no guarantee. If they're happy, if they seem a little bit cranky, that shouldn't bother you. You should just do your best, vocalize, be self-confident, and practice the skills that we discussed, and for sure you will reach the score that you need.